Hey guys, Matt here again with the Louda created Datsun 620 build. This episode we're going to go over some of the paperwork side of things, have a look at the design approval stuff, and then hopefully while that's being processed, the LVVTA, what do they call it? The technical advisory or whatever they call it. They only meet once a month, and depending on how much stuff they have to go through, even if you submit your form, you might not get it. They might not get to go over it in that month's meeting, so it might be pushed back to the next month. So I will get some paperwork into them, and then while that's being done, I might carry on hopefully with some stuff on probably the engine that I can push on with. My mate Scott dropped off some leftover parts from his Rotary build, just some filters, a low pressure rig and some leads. I'm still waiting. Hopefully in the next couple of days I'll have the carb and bits and pieces for the engine. So I think once that paperwork's off, I will play around with tidying up the motor a bit, because obviously I can do that. Yeah, probably push on with some bits and pieces like that, maybe depending on how long the paperwork's going to take, maybe start on a bit of rust, possibly. I think I'm going to put a top hung pedal box in, so maybe start on playing around with some of the firewall and pedal box mount and things. Hopefully the paperwork doesn't take too long and we can get stuck into the major stuff, but we'll just have a look through. I'll go through some of the paperwork stuff and yeah, get it sent off. Shot. Here we are. I tried to do this by looking at the form on my computer, but it's kind of hard to look through it and a bit glitchy, so I thought it may be easier to just do it with the camera. So I've downloaded this design approval forms off the LVV website. Pretty easy to do. There's two parts to this. There's a concept approval process and a design approval process. The concept approval process is like 4 pages. The design approval process is like 25 pages. So for now, I'm just going to go and do a concept approval, because I know that 90% of what I want to build is going to be fine. It's just mainly around this rocker setup that I'm iffy about, and whether they're going to be happy with it or not. So mainly in this form, there's not a lot to it. It just gives a general overview of the project, engine, gearbox, diff, what have you, and that's about it. And then I will just outline in there the main part about the suspension and send in some drawings of what I have for the suspension. And hopefully they will come back and say that they're happy with that, and then I can crack on and build it. And then once it's all done, then you can go through the design approval application, which is we'll go through every nut and bolt that you've used for all the fixings, different materials, different welding processes, the whole shebang. What arms, what rod ends, all the sizes for that stuff. What there you go. Brake pipes, brake pedal push rod sizes, dimensions, wheels and tires, every little bit of the build. So because I don't exactly know 100% what all this is going to be, there's no point in even looking at this form yet. As long as I can get the rocker stuff signed off and the way I want to build the suspension arms, then I know that all of this stuff will be fine, because it's all going to be pretty straightforward and stuff I've done before, so no issues. So I'll get this filled out, get a couple of drawings done. I mean, the joy about this is the drawings don't exactly have to be perfect dimensions and what have you, because as you'd know, once you start getting some stuff together in place, things can change a little bit. So this will just be a general overview of how it's going to work, and hopefully they're happy with it, and then I can push on to get some proper stuff built and in the ute, which will be exciting. So yeah, awesome. Right, after a lot of painful going around in circles, I've kind of got a bit of a front end. Realistically, it's not that hard to draw. I just have a lot of issues with making all the joints work. As you can see, these are all on the piss, because if I try to fix them in the right direction, it kind of ties the whole drawing together and I can't move any of the components. So for the purpose of this, it's ugly, but it works. So you can see the range of motion that everything would go through. Again, this should be attached to that, but every time I attach that to that, this whole system just binds up and I can't move it. So at the moment it's just staying as it is. Still a lot of learning. This is an amazing program, but you can waste some time and be tearing your hair out. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of my idea for the front end. I haven't drawn in those brackets or a cross member yet. I'm still kind of unsure of what I'm going to do around this area. I would still probably like that rocker to be higher and to step the chassis rail up a bit through here, so these brackets at the top for the top arms aren't as long. Which I don't know, it's a bit of a hard one. I've kind of done the dimension between these two the same as the standard arms. Realistically, I'd probably want to push this one further forward, make this arm wider so I have more room underneath it for the rocker, because at the moment the rocker is kind of directly underneath it, so the bracket that I'd have to make up to that rose joint would be quite ugly. So yeah, maybe this whole arm gets sort of redesigned and is more square across the back and kicks further forward at the front, possibly. But as for now, I think that's probably enough to send off to LVV to get them to have a look at it and say whether they're happy with the way that that's laid out, and sort of give me some guidance of how to make this stuff. I mean, I probably would make that just out of plate and weld a tube into it and press some bearings into it and then machine up a stub with a circlip or something on it to hold it all together, or drill and tap into the end of that and make up a big retaining washer. But that's probably nicer actually than a circlip to hold it together better. Circlip to hold the bearings into the housing, and then a retaining washer to hold it all together. But I don't know whether they're going to be happy with that. So that's the type of thing I want some clarification on. So for now, I think I will just leave it at that. Sort of fix up a few of these bits and just take some still shots of it. See now, for whatever reason, that's stopped and it won't move. That will move, but this won't, whereas it was before. I don't know. Maybe it's because my computer's a bit slow and it doesn't like fiddling with it. Not sure, but yeah, it's kind of a step in the right direction. I don't know what it does. Oh, there you go. But now this isn't attached. Now it's completely gone skew. Okay. Like I say, still got a lot to learn with this. Without the caster on there, it seems to work pretty well. Yeah, I'll print out some still photos of this stuff. I've done a little bit of the paperwork. I'll send it off and see what they come back with. Sure. It's one of the things I'm not sure about, and I want some clarification on how they want me to build it, is the rocker. So I've just drawn up this as an example that I'll send to them and see if they're happy with that or not. So this has got, where am I? The main spindle through the center, the body of the rocker. It's got 2 roller bearings pressed into the middle of it, retaining circlip, a retaining washer to hold the bearings on the shaft, and a bolt. So pretty cool to be able to sort of do all that stuff. The hole in the end of the shaft is tapped. What else have we got? The bearings there, circlip groove in the housing. Obviously those plates will be welded to that center bush, but I don't know, you possibly could add a weld into the drawing. I'm not sure how, haven't looked at that, but won't be too concerned about that. There's the spindle, and yeah, so I will do like probably a section drawing of that so they can see all the details on the inside and send that to them as well and see if they're happy with that. And we will be on, I think, see what they come back with. All right, it's taken me a long time, but I've got something I am ready to send in. So I've filled out this form with just my details, the general details of the ute, a rough overview of the engine, gearbox, some bits and pieces that I want to do to the chassis. It's pretty basic, and a couple of questions. My main questions are: am I allowed to build the rocker setup, and am I allowed to fabricate my own top and bottom arms out of? I know that you're allowed to build them out of tube. Am I allowed to build them out of plate and fold them and weld them? Also have a photo of the shock and the front end in the ute, and just a little blurb about saying what I did to put the Mazda stuff in the front for now, just to make sure it was going to work, and then that I can use that to transfer the geometry into the front of the ute. Just a rough example of how I want to fabricate the arms and whether I'm allowed to do it that way. I drew a picture of the rocker. This is probably a detail that I would want them to approve, because I don't know, just because. So I've drawn that up with a spindle that would get welded through the chassis, the rocker with a center bush that has 2 bearings pressed into it, has a circlip, a retaining bolt and washer to hold it all onto the shaft, and so I've given them some details of that so they can say whether they're happy with the way that can be made or not. Just some dimensions of the front geometry, some different views of the front suspension stuff, a 3D drawing of the suspension, the way that the rocker would work. So that's on droop and that's on bump, so they can sort of see the way that would work. I mean, I'm sure they kind of get the general idea, but at least I'll try and give them a bit of information. And then the same for the rear, on droop and on bump, and then just a general layout of the rear. So I'll send that off and see what they come back with. Shit.